What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. Before I get started on the video, just want to let you guys know I will be live Saturday. Going to push it back a little bit this week because I'm going to be away Wednesday through Friday. But if anything big drops or I feel like there's something worth talking about, I'll definitely have a phone video up from the hotel I'm going to be at. But in this video, I want to talk about a bunch of things regarding the New York Giants. There's news around the league. There was a surprise cut from our opponent this week, the Dallas Cowboys, with Jaylon Smith. I'll talk about the possibility of the New York Giants potentially bringing him in. Of course, right now the New York Giants are thin at that position due to the fact that Blake Martinez is out for the year, and maybe they want to consider bringing in a guy that was a Pro Bowler just 2 years ago who has some familiarity within the division that is still young. I'll talk about some of the cons to bringing him in, and I'll talk about some of the pros. I'll also touch on this week's matchup against the Dallas Cowboys, and not so much give you guys a preview, but just talk about some of the things that I think the New York Giants could look to exploit against this Dallas Cowboys football team. By no means do I think this is a cakewalk. As a matter of fact, I would tell you right now, this is the toughest opponent that the New York Giants have played to date so far this season. The Cowboys are off to a fantastic start. Now, the Giants lost some games that I thought like they probably should have won. I think we should have beat Washington, and I think we definitely should have beaten the Atlanta Falcons. Didn't work out that way. Well, to make up for that, the New York Giants have to find a way, at least in my opinion, to win one out of these next two games between the Dallas Cowboys and the Rams. I had the Giants getting off to a 2-4 start before the year started with a 9-8 finish. But to be able to do that, you got to be able to win a game that we probably thought before the year started was going to be very hard to win. And based off the way that the Dallas Cowboys have looked so far, it looks even more challenging. But any given Sunday, anything could happen. It's a game from within the division. I also wanted to touch on your quarterback, Daniel Jones, and just speak on the award that he took home this week. It is the second time that Daniel Jones has won this award. He won the NFC Offensive Player of the Week. This coming off his Week 2 performance, in which he was named the PFF Player of the Week. Daniel Jones this week threw for 402 yards. He had 2 touchdowns with a 108.5 quarterback rating. He's been absolutely fantastic so far this year. He's on pace to throw for over 5,000 yards. Yes, he only has 4 passing touchdowns. He does have 2 rushing, but he's a Darius Slayton drop away from having 5. And you have to think that this offense will start to click more and more as this season progresses. This past week was really the first taste of Kadarius Toney that we got. Saquon Barkley definitely looked like he was starting to get back to himself. And of course, Kenny Golladay and Daniel Jones seem to be getting on the same page. Golladay, of course, scored for over 100 yards this past week. And I think it's giving Giants fans a lot of hope that maybe Daniel Jones is certainly trending towards potentially being a franchise quarterback for this football team. And that, to me, is the most important thing this season for the Giants. Of course, I want them to win the Super Bowl every year, and I would love and want them to make the playoffs. But if I come out of this year feeling that I am very confident that Daniel Jones is trending towards a franchise quarterback, that's a big, big win in my book. And of course, another thing that needs to continue to be expressed, a big reason why Jones is having as much early success as he has is because of his blindside protector, Andrew Thomas. He's also familiar in the second year of the scheme of the Garrett offense, and we'll see if Garrett continues to open up the offense for Daniel Jones going forward. This right now, and I know a lot of people don't like to go by this, but I like to go over everything, is his PFF grade. I think it's the 4th or 5th highest PFF grade of any quarterback in the NFL at 86.9. And in terms of strictly throwing the football, he ranks second just behind Tom Brady. This is what some of the players had to say about him after his performance against the New Orleans Saints. This coming out, I believe, from Saquon Barkley. He showed them what we've been seeing. Hopefully you started seeing it too. Running back Saquon Barkley told reporters after the game, ever since the day he's been drafted, he's been criticized. That guy does nothing but come in and work and get better and lead every single day. He's a competitor. He showed today he's a special player. We knew he was a special player. So great things there as players backing him up. This then coming from Joe Judge. He had a heck of a game. Head coach Joe Judge said it, Jones. Man, that was a great performance by Daniel. Rookie wide receiver Kadarius Toney added. By the way, got all these quotes off GiantsWire.com. Nobody in the locker room doubts him no matter what. Whether he had a bad game or a good game, there was never no doubt they're there because we know at the end of the day, our faith is the strongest belief we have. Then Kenny Golladay, speaking about his quarterback. This is my first year with him, and always say in the offseason, I see the work he puts in, Golladay said. I see how great he wants to be. Today he went out there very competitive, and he had a day. It's not so much what I learned about him. It's what I knew he was capable of doing. So that's great stuff that you hear out of the playmakers from the New York Giants. Of course, John Ross had a really good day as well, and I expect Daniel Jones to continue to improve this year. Of course, he's going to have his bumps in the road, and what I ask New York Giants fans is, if he has a bad game, don't completely give up on the kid. Every quarterback is going to have a bad game, and we know he's got pressure. What this year is about is more consistency, and so far this season, we've certainly seen it. I think we've seen 2 okay performances and 2 great performances in which he won PFF Player of the Week 2, and in which he won NFC Offensive Player of the Week 4. And that was going against a pretty good defense in the New Orleans Saints, who had the 3rd best overall ranked running defense coming into the game. Jones did a damn good job, and the offensive line as well deserves a ton of credit. Now, this I wanted to touch on, of course, was Jaylon Smith, and it seems to me that the main reason why the Dallas Cowboys unexpectedly decided to move on from Jaylon Smith was money, financial reasons. Jaylon Smith, like I said, former second-round pick out of Notre Dame, of course, suffered a horrible injury, I believe, in his senior season while at Notre Dame, and that's why he fell to the second round for the Dallas Cowboys. Otherwise, many thought he'd be a top 5 pick. But has been a very good player at times throughout his career with the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, the Cowboys felt like he was probably starting to take a step back, which is why they drafted Micah Parsons, and now they're forward-thinking here and trying to save some money on next year's cap. But is it the best decision by the Cowboys when you factor in that what if somebody goes down? You have a guy here that's been a leader of your football team that could step in and at least play satisfactory at the linebacker position for a team that's, if we're being honest, looking to compete for a Super Bowl this year, and you're not really saving that much money. Let's jump into the exact specifics. This is coming out from Spot Track. Wow. Jalen Smith had 5 years, $50.75 million left on his contract. His release leaves behind $16.6 million of dead cap money. 2021, the Cowboys will still be responsible for $9.8 million and $6.8 million in 2022. Now, by cutting him, and I think I'm going to have the exact figures, I think it was about $9.2 million for next year, which means they saved an extra 2.4 than what they would have. Had they cut him last year, they still would have been responsible to pay 6.8, I believe. So they saved some money, but it's not as much as the 9.2 may indicate. This then coming out, his stats, well, he was with the Dallas Cowboys. He's still young. He's only 26 years old, and again, if you listen to Dallas Cowboys fans, they all feel like he's taking a step back, and I'm sure he has, which is why they went out there and they drafted a linebacker this year, and they probably felt like with the addition of Keanu Neal, who's been playing up as a linebacker as well for this Dallas Cowboys football team, they probably thought he was expendable, and they were trying to save some money on next year's cap. Now the Giants and several other teams will have the opportunity to claim him. Actually, I think he's a free agent if I'm not mistaken. Regardless, they'll have an opportunity to try to sign this guy, and I'm sure somebody will, and they won't have to pay him much, being that Dallas, for the most part, is footing the bill. But if you look at his stats, he was a Pro Bowler in 2019, in which he had 142 combined tackles. Just last year for the Cowboys, he had 154 tackles. This year in 4 games, he's had 18 tackles, and he's kind of been splitting time. I think he had 9 total tackles in his second to last game. His snap share was down a lot this past week, though. I think it was about 25%, and the Cowboys probably felt like they could ease him out of the defense. Cowboys cutting Jaylon Smith with looming $9.2 million guarantee was the headline, and that's the reason that they moved on. As far as the Giants goes, I see no reason not to at least kick the tires and entertain bringing him in. I mean, right now you got Tate Crowder. I know Reggie Ragland looked pretty good this past week, but we're thin at that position after Blake Martinez went down with the injury. And if it's not Jaylon Smith, maybe it'll be somebody else. Being that he's got familiarity within the division as well, that's a little bit extra bonus, maybe a little bit more motivation. Maybe he brings a little bit of insider information from the Cowboys, but that's probably reading too much into it. But certainly a guy that I think the Giants should at least entertain bringing in with the vacancy left by Blake Martinez. We'll see if the New York Giants are interested in acquiring his services. Then we're going to jump into a couple more things about Smith that I got off of Sports Illustrated. Smith had 18 tackles in 4 games for the Cowboys, though he had just 1 tackle for the Cowboys in Sunday's win over the Carolina Panthers. He had a season-high 9 tackles against the Chargers. Smith started 2 of the Cowboys' 4 games. Smith was often productive for the Cowboys the past 3 seasons, registering 121 total tackles in 18, 142 in 19, 152 in 2020. Smith's 2019 season led to a Pro Bowl berth. Smith's story was one of the best in recent NFL memory. Smith suffered a devastating injury in the 2016 Fiesta Bowl, tearing his ACL and LCL in his knee and hurting his draft chances. The Cowboys took a chance on him in the 2016 draft, taking him in the second round and having him sit the entire 2016 season to rehab the injury. In 2017, Smith returned on the field and played in all 16 games, starting 7 and finishing with 81 combined tackles. And everything I read, people said that he was a great great leader in that locker room. Here's a couple of things that I wanted to pull up for you guys when talking about this week's opponent with the Dallas Cowboys. Didn't mean to pull up that graph before I, started to dive into it. One thing I've talked about with the New York Giants the past several weeks is I feel like they need to be more aggressive. Specifically on fourth down, I don't always agree with Joe Judge's strategy to punt and be more conservative, and especially this week, going up against this offense. We all know the Dallas Cowboys have a very explosive offense. We know that they have a much more balanced offense this year as well. They've rushed for 603 yards over their last 3 games combined, and they're getting back to what made the Dallas Cowboys as good as they were just a few years ago. They're relying on that offensive line. They're relying on Ezekiel Elliott, and they're setting themselves up for much more efficient passing opportunities. And the Giants have to do a good job on defense. That goes without saying, of not getting carved up for over 200 yards on the ground, which is basically what they've been doing to their past 3 opponents. That's only going to make Dak's job that much easier. It's going to be much easier said than done, though, going up against the Cowboys. I expect the New York Giants to come out with a bend but don't break approach and see if they can hold strong from within the red zone. But in terms of offensively, what I think the Giants have got to do, when there's opportunities in this game to be aggressive, you've got to go for it. If you got a 4th and short in Cowboys territory, you've got to go for it. You cannot settle for 3 points against the Dallas Cowboys. If you do that, more than likely, we are not going to get out of Dallas with a win. The Giants are going to have to put 7s on the board. We're going to get into some of the good news about the Dallas Cowboys defense and maybe why it's being a little bit more overhyped than it looks to be, at least as of now. Of course, the Cowboys have been great in the turnover department. I think they're 2nd in the NFL. They've created 10 turnovers, but is that sustainable? Right now, the Dallas Cowboys have basically played near perfect football. They're +7 in the turnover differential, which is a pace of +30. That's just not sustainable. If the Giants are going to have any chance to win this football game, they've got to win the turnover battle. To the Giants' credit, they've done a good job of that this year. They have only surrendered the ball 3 times. One was a Hail Mary by Daniel Jones before the half. One was an Evan Ingram fumble. And I can't remember, and the Daniel Jones fumble week 1. But outside of that, the Giants in 4 games have only turned the ball over 3 times. The Cowboys have forced 10. That will be a huge, huge, huge part of this football game. But I wanted to go over the chart talking about, showing rather, and I don't know how they measure this, but this is analytically driven, which teams go for it when they should in 2021. And there's a chart of, based off of analytics, when teams make the right decision and when they don't. If you look all the way at the bottom of the chart, the New York Giants rank 31st out of 32 teams. Only the Seattle Seahawks are below them. The Dallas Cowboys rank 4th in the entire NFL. So as I said earlier, especially going up against a team like the Dallas Cowboys, the Giants have got to, and they're going to be put in these spots. They're going to have 4th and 2s, 4th and 3s at the Cowboys 35. They've got to try to punch it in for 7, and they cannot settle for long field goals. So we'll see if they're able to do that this week, and if when they do, they convert. I also wanted to jump into what the enemy is saying about this game and how they are continuing to take the New York Giants for granted, as they should. Got this off the Dallas Cowboys website. The NFC East is ripe for the taking, as the Cowboys are already proving to be the team to beat in the division. Considering they have won their last 3 games, makes this a no-brainer prediction. The Cowboys will win, and win big, at home once again to prove to the football world they mean business. We're predicting 43-13. Cowboys winners, America's teams got this and will make quick work of the Giants. And if I was a Cowboys fan, I'd feel confident too. They've looked very good the past 3 weeks. As a Giants fan, the way I'm going into this game, there's very little pressure on our football team. Very few people are expecting us to win. I do think the Giants will keep it a lot closer than what that prediction says, and I do think they could remain competitive within this football game and possibly give themselves an opportunity to win it. It's going to come down to Daniel Jones, and it's going to come down to the ground attack. I don't think teams have come with the right offensive philosophy going up against the Dallas Cowboys over the last several weeks. I'll jump further into that throughout this video. This is an interesting thing that I pulled off as well. I think I got this off GiantsWire.com, talking about how the New York Giants have fared within the division and against the spread. The Cowboys coming into this game are a 7-point favorite. The Giants are 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 versus the NFC East, and 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 games in October. New York is 20-6 against the spread in their last 26 road games as well. So recent history would tell you that the New York Giants actually, even though they've been horrible, have been underestimated by Vegas, specifically on the road and specifically from within the division. They've covered 20 out of the last 26 times in their last 26 road contests. So we'll see if this game is much closer than Vegas thinks right now with the 7-point spread. These are a couple things that I really wanted to hit home with and why maybe some people are overestimating the Dallas Cowboys defense just a bit. Now, don't get me wrong. They've definitely been opportunistic. They have a very good cornerback with Diggs, who already has 4 interceptions, and that's definitely part of the game. But is it sustainable for them to continue to create this many turnovers? In terms of yards against, the Dallas Cowboys have surrendered the 26th most yards in the NFL, which obviously shows you that there's holes in this defense. And the Cowboys know that. I think the Cowboys basically, and I don't watch every Cowboys game, but from what I've gathered, from what I've seen, they play fast, they play aggressive. They know they have holes in this defense. They play aggressive, and they try to create a turnover or two every single game. They know teams are going to get big plays. The Giants have got to play mistake-free football if they're going to win this game against the Dallas Cowboys. In terms of the red zone defense, obviously, offensively, it's a good 10 of 15, but defensively, it's been bad. They've surrendered 10 touchdowns in 15 red zone trips. Now, the Giants' red zone offense has been atrocious. That will be a huge key in this football game. Can the New York Giants take advantage of the poor red zone defense of the Dallas Cowboys? It's something we've struggled with over the past 2 years, and hopefully the Giants got a little bit more chemistry this past week. Of course, they closed the game out with a red zone touchdown against the New Orleans Saints. If they could capitalize on this perceived weakness of the Dallas Cowboys, this game may be a lot closer than some people may think. This was another thing that I really wanted to look at. I was looking at the overall statistics in terms of Dallas and their opponents. In terms of rushing attempts, the Dallas Cowboys rushing attack has been ridiculous. 663 yards on the ground. Like I said, they only had 60 yards rushing week 1 against the Bucs. So since week 1, they've had 603 yards on the ground in just 3 games. They've had 124 rushing attempts. What boggles my mind when I look at this stat and why I think teams have been going against them backwards has been the rushing attempts against the Dallas Cowboys. If you're going to beat the Cowboys, you cannot just air out the football. That's playing into their game. They love to air it out, and they'll chew up the clock. If the Giants are going to stand any chance in this game, they're going to have to establish a ground game. Their opponents so far in the year have only run the ball 69 times in 4 games, and the Philadelphia Eagles, when they played the Cowboys, only had 3 carries with their running backs. That is unacceptable. The New York Giants have got to find a way to get the ground attack established, and I think they can. If you look all the way to the right, the Cowboys are surrendering 4.7 yards per carry against their opponents. You know, to put it in context, just last week, the Saints were giving up only 2.8 yards per carry on the ground. The Giants were able to average 4 yards per carry. I think this is an aggressive defense, and I think the Giants may be able to take advantage with some screen passes and some read option plays trying to utilize Daniel Jones's legs. But we'll see. But I think that is a weakness as well. If the New York Giants could commit to the run, I do think they have an opportunity to have a pretty successful day on the offensive side of the football. Another thing I wanted to look at was the Dallas Cowboys missed tackles. You know, we talk about the Giants, who are pretty bad in this area as well. I think they've had 25 missed tackles. The Dallas Cowboys are the 6th worst team in the NFL in terms of missed tackles. They've had 29 missed tackles so far this year. So there's certainly some holes in this defense. And if the Giants are going to win this game, they're going to control the clock, they're going to play mistake-free football, and Daniel Jones will be able to convert in the red zone. You cannot settle for 3s against the Dallas Cowboys. It will take 7s to get out of Dallas with a win, and I hope that Daniel Jones gets to sign that wall underneath Eli Manning's name. By no means am I predicting a win. I do think Dallas is favored, as they should be. They're at home. They've looked like a much better football team. But in the NFL, you never know. It's a divisional game. The Giants maybe build some momentum off of that New Orleans game, and I could see this being a competitive game. And all I ask as a Giants fan is give Daniel Jones a chance to win it in the waning minutes. But we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. Like I said, I'll probably have a video or 2 up throughout the week when I feel like it's appropriate. You'll get one from the phone, being that I won't have my laptop on me. Saturday, I will be live with Bad Dog for Talking Giants before we stream the game here live on Sunday. Cannot wait to see the New York Giants take on the Dallas Cowboys. We'll see if the New York Giants kick the tires on Jaylon Smith and Daniel Jones continues to progress as your franchise or potential franchise quarterback. As always, guys, if you like what you watch, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.